Morning. Sorry,
Morning.
Sorry, we're late.
A few seconds.
Like literally 8 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't see the mic jumping today when I'm talking.
It's because it's swapped the other way.
Oh, you see the mic?
Now you can see
you
it.
can't change things on me like this.
Right. Kind of like Tyreek Hill leaving KC.
You know what? I'm not mad. I'm not.
Hey, you shouldn't be. You got 5 picks out of
That's
the
what
deal.
I'm saying. You got 2 top 50 picks
Yes.
this year.
29 and 46, I think.
50,
you get
29 and 50.
29 and 50. Yeah. First and second round and a fourth and a sixth round.
And then you get a first next year.
Yeah.
I mean,
he may be Cheetah, but is he worth 5 picks? Yes.
And he's gonna be a free agent next year.
Again?
Yeah, and he wanted
they signed him to a 4-year deal.
I'm pretty sure he was I don't know.
It's a 4-year, $120 million deal.
Right, with Miami.
Yeah.
I don't think with Kansas City he had that.
No, but
he was coming up on a contract year.
He was coming up on a contract year because he was a free agent this year to go. And
look, they just signed Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
They still have McCole Hardeman. They still have Pringle. They still have Kelsey.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're going to be fine.
They still have.
Now, if they could.
They still got 15 chucking the ball 100 yards down the field.
If they could woo OBJ over as a number one receiver, y'all would be set for a while.
Well, and they picked up draft picks because they let Tyrann Mathieu go.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted because I think he was great for the locker room.
Yeah.
But I think his play on the field had
suffered.
Yeah.
It's suffered. He's getting older.
He's 32.
I mean,
right. It's not
and for NFL, that's
right.
getting
it's not
older
old by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
For professional athletes that throw their bodies into other 250-pound objects that are running at you.
Exactly.
So I'm not mad at it.
No.
I'm not mad at it.
No.
I noticed that we were going to discuss topics over coffee or White Monster.
Because some days
we have coffee this morning.
We have coffee this morning.
That's right.
Well, I was going to talk about free agency because I think there's in my mind anyway, there's an interesting correlation between the concept of free agency and the local church.
That's interesting because I was kind of thinking the same thing.
All right, tell me your thought.
Well, this past Sunday, we discussed camp and what our theme was going to be. The theme for Falls Creek this year is choose. And so they've chosen out of Deuteronomy 30, their theme verse, Deuteronomy 30 and 19, I think.
Which says
choose life.
Oh, yeah.
I can read the whole thing to you. I haven't pulled up.
Yeah, blessings and cursings I lay before you.
You have an option.
What are you going to choose?
You have choices.
Yeah. Will you obey and choose life, or will you disobey and choose darkness?
Exactly.
Yeah, or death.
Oh, wait.
Life and death I lay before you.
Hold on. We're double talking here.
We're double talking. That's not good for preachers to double talk.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Let me get to my app.
We're by ourselves so far. That's unusual.
Cheryl's here. No, she's here. She just hasn't said hi.
She just hadn't said anything yet.
Yeah.
And Laura's all mad because she has a brother that won't stop talking.
She's the one that won't stop talking. You saw that Facebook post.
Yes, I did.
Look, it starts out so just splendidly. This command that I give you today is certainly not too difficult or beyond your reach.
This is not beyond you.
This is not bigger than what you think it is. You have a choice to make.
That's right.
Now, we look at, let's take Tyreek Hill, for example.
Okay.
If Miami thinks that Tua is the dude, which they clearly do.
Apparently, nobody else does, but they do.
If Miami thinks that he's the dude, then...
they gave him an O-line, and now they gave him Cheetah. So
he had to make a choice.
Figure it out.
Am I going to stick with what's proven?
Mm-hmm.
And
not as much money.
Or is it proven? Because, we went through some painful times early in the season as Chiefs fans. Just here to tell you, we went through some painful times.
Defense was lacking a little,
but they figured it out. They got it right. They had good. They had good leadership.
They went to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I don't know that they should have though. I think Buffalo should have beat them. I think the overtime rules worked against Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, they went to the AFC Championship. They didn't,
right?
But I don't Super Bowl.
I don't think they should have even been in the AFC Championship.
Oh,
I thought Buffalo was a better team that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that Kansas City won that game on a coin toss.
Well, they did. That's a different dads with coffee conversation.
So look, I'm a Chiefs fan till the day I die. I mean,
Bill should have had a chance to at least respond.
Right. But they didn't. They didn't. But going back to choosing,
yes,
and we talk about free agency, you have options.
Yes, you do.
And you have your own free will.
Okay.
To make that choice.
You're going to go that direction, so let's hear that. And then I'll go from the other end of the of that game choice. So let's hear your side.
So Cheetah could have stayed.
Sure,
he could have absolutely stayed, and he could have endured. You know, with him staying means that they're not going to get much better on defense.
No, because salary cap would hurt too hard.
With him staying, they're going to continue to be.
Devontae Adams messed up the entire wide receiver pay scale system.
Yeah,
and so Cheetah saw that and thought, "Hey,
wait,
I guess he didn't think Chiefs were even going to offer him anything, or did they offer him something, and did he just want out?"
I think I don't know that he wanted out. He saw the writing on the wall.
He's a passionate young man, and I'll say that in the most liberal way possible, because we had him at Oklahoma State.
Yeah,
and he had to not be at Oklahoma State. He has his issues.
I'm just saying, everyone has everyone does. Everyone has their vices. Some are worse than others, but I think he saw the writing on the wall that the Chiefs weren't going to pay him next year,
right? Because
they got him on the cheap. They got Mecole Hardman on the cheap.
Mm-hmm.
They got Pringle on the cheap.
There's another one. It's a 3-name person.
Juju?
No, there's another one. We were talking about it this morning.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
No, there's another receiver.
They got him on the cheap too.
There was another receiver.
The Chiefs front office does a great job of finding players that Andy Reid can work.
And Andy Reid's a developer.
And
he's a developer. He's a trainer.
There are so many people out there that say Eric Bieniemy should be the next head coach somewhere, and I can't agree with you more.
Except that you don't want him to leave.
I do not want him to leave Kansas City. I don't want him. He's a great football mind, and I think he and Andy Reid are such a great team.
Yeah,
that they've developed this camaraderie between them, and that's why Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all these guys.
So back to the freedom to choose.
Okay, freedom to choose. You talking about this individual having the freedom to choose?
Yeah, you were talking about Hill had a choice to make.
He did have a choice to make. The choice is, do I stay with where I know is
right
has been,
or do I try something new?
And so, in his mind,
high risk, high reward is his thought.
It was was it selfish, or did he just strike while the iron was hot? You see the money that wide receivers are getting.
Absolutely.
Let me go get my money.
You know, there's a fascinating concept, and maybe it's a whole different situation, but it's all about what you're chasing. And some people, and I heard this argument the other day on Sports Talk, that some people chase money, and that's great, chase your money, but your career may end badly.
Right.
If you and this particular individual was talking about the way Tom Brady has done it differently.
I was just thinking the same thing.
In this,
love him or hate him, Tom Brady has,
in the sense that he chose good management,
over
good money, and you see what he was able to do.
You can also look at the other side of that and understand that Tom Brady's wife. Tom Brady's a trophy husband. He's the best quarterback in the league, but he's a trophy husband.
Oh yeah, Giselle is
the moneymaker. In that
yeah, right.
Let's be honest.
Which is why we didn't understand why they didn't go to Miami, because
Tampa was the best option
for him, not for her.
Well, I mean, you're not far from Miami and Tampa,
right?
You can live halfway between.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But you're right. Brady chose
management.
New England was done with Brady.
Well, and
they hired his successor,
and yes, but there's a point that's being made currently, and we'll see it played out possibly this year, that Belichick is done, much like Pete Carroll doesn't know what he's doing in the 21st century league.
Right.
that he's built for last century's league, and he's not necessarily built for now, because such a defensive-minded coach, and he can't get himself into a different way of thinking.
Right, you have to, you have to press with your offense. You need the Chiefs.
So they lose Russ to Denver, which I'm sure you hate.
I do hate that. The AFC West is getting ridiculously strong.
Yeah,
there's not a bad team in the division.
No, it's almost like the AFC North. It's gotten a lot stronger.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how Cleveland does with Deshaun, but
that's if he gets to play, which is a whole nother concept. But he won't play half the season. But anyway,
I think he should.
So I looked at the free agency so tie it into the church, because you said you had been thinking about this coming out of this scripture verse.
Right. So in the local church, we have choices to make. Do we want to stay where we are, stick with status quo?
Sure.
And be happy with what we've got? Or do we want to move on or move forward, see what else is out there?
Right.
Both have risks.
Right.
Both have rewards.
And they're opposites.
Right. You know, Joanna talks a lot about red choices and green choices with her preschool class, because so often kids think of consequences as negative.
Right.
Right. And so she says green choices will give you green consequences.
Right.
Red choices will give you red consequences.
Correct.
So if you choose green, choose positive.
Right.
And I guess that's just stop and go.
Yeah, I guess.
Stoplights. I don't know why she did red and green, but
it was Christmas when she came up with it.
Probably. No, I'm sure she thought a little more than that about it.
I understand. I'm just teasing. But yes.
But your choices have consequences.
Every one of them.
Whether they're
some good, some bad,
positive,
some
negative.
Life, some death, some blessings, some cursing.
That's exactly what it says. So are we going to choose life? Are we going to choose to continue to spin our wheels and wonder why? Or are we going to put it in 4 low and truck out of there?
Right.
And get out of the rut. I think oftentimes we get into a rut of I don't want to call it tradition, but
just a routine, a comfort.
Yeah, we're comfortable here. Let's do this. I'd love to see one morning you just get up and preach first. I'm just that guy. You get up, you preach first, and then we sing.
Yeah. Well, let me get through this series first.
But I mean, just to change the flow.
Sure. Well, this Sunday we're having a change of flow. It's going to be done differently this week.
Don't mess with the sound guy.
You were here last night, weren't you? I know Jess went home. She wasn't feeling well, but the flow changed.
We didn't talk about. I didn't talk about that last.
Well, the order of it is a little different than it has been the last several weeks.
I'm excited for that.
So, little varieties, spice of life.
Variety is a spice of life.
Now, I looked at the free agency.
Unless you're talking about Mountain Dew, then you just stick with Mountain Dew.
Yep. I looked at the free agency because if you don't know, NFL free agency is all the rage in the last 2 weeks of March, and there's a whole lot of movement going on in the NFL for those who care. But I was sitting there listening to it yesterday and then again this morning on the way in to work, and talking about all the things here, this and that. And the common thread that I hear from the owner and GM's perspective is, okay, we have this team. And for like going back to the Tyreek Hill, Miami connection, Miami has this team, and they are saying the quarterback we have is the quarterback we want.
Right.
They're making that decision.
He's our quarterback of the future.
Yes.
We're moving forward with him.
And so they went out and acquired the pieces and the parts that would best work with the intention of winning a championship.
Of course, that's the ultimate goal.
That's always, and they may have a short-term goal of let's just win our division this year.
Yeah.
Which they didn't do last year.
But it's a very winnable division now.
It is now. And so I look at it from the GM's perspective of, or from Kansas City now. Okay, we've lost Honey Badger and we've lost Cheetah. So now we have to look at our losses against what our goal is and go, what pieces do we need to bring back in? May not be the same position that we strengthen, but what do we need to do? Because our goal hasn't changed. What do we need to do to make sure that we have the best opportunity? I mean, you still have to go play the games,
right?
And injuries happen,
sure.
But what can we do to do the best we can do to prepare for the goal that we want to reach?
And see, you look at it, and we look at free agency from two different sides here.
Oh, sure.
Tyrann Mathieu didn't get a choice. The Chiefs cut him. Well, they just didn't resign him.
Right.
But Tyreek had a choice. And he had to make a personal decision.
Sure.
And so corporate makes a global decision for the entire group.
Right.
But the individual still has to make their decisions.
Sure.
And the two, they have to tie together at some point.
Sure.
We have to be able to make the best personal decisions if we care about the whole. If we care about the whole enough, we have to make personal decisions that are going to strengthen the whole unit.
Well, and sometimes corporate makes a decision that upsets a current player. Green Bay Packers.
Sure.
When they brought Love in.
Yeah.
So he took it as a challenge and went out as the MVP the next year.
Right.
And said, I'll show you why you shouldn't have brought him in. Seattle, when Russ won the Super Bowl, and they went out and just looked at the pro day for Josh Wilson, or Josh Allen. They went and looked at the pro day. That upset Russ.
Which Josh Allen's an incredible talent. I mean,
and
kid's a freak.
To Pete Carroll's point when he was speaking, he was like, "How could we not go look at him? He was the number one prospect. We wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't at least go look at him." But Russ took it as an affront and said, "Okay, I just won you a Super Bowl.
You don't want me anymore?
And you haven't even paid me yet.
Right.
And you're already looking at that." And so I think that there's some complication. So corporate can make some decisions. Sometimes are boneheaded.
Sure.
And sometimes are just forward thinking.
Yes.
But the current players may not understand that. And so now they have the choice. Sometimes that choice is, I'm not sure this is where I want to be. And so they need to find a new home.
Just going to cut my losses.
And sometimes they need to suck it up and go, you know what? I don't know that I have it better anywhere else. So I'm going to stay here and just see what happens.
See what could be.
Right. Because, the player is not the one running the organization. That's what you have a GM for. That's what you have an owner for. They're the ones who run it.
Unless you're the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, yeah, that's a whole. But you still have an owner running the situation.
You do. Who's also the GM.
Who also the GM.
0 cents.
So, this whole sense of free agency, to me, the free agency in the church is there are goals or a vision, if you will, that even our local church, we have a vision of making disciples of every resident in Crowley. And in order to do that, there are some pieces and parts that are necessary for us to make that happen. And not to sound so puppet mastery, but the reality is we have a group of people that attend our church. Some people are utilizing their gifts to the greatest that they can, and it's very beneficial.
Right.
Some people are not. And that's just the reality in every organization.
Sure.
You've got some people that will excel and some people that will not. And so, the attempt to get more and more people to utilize whatever gifts that they have, or to mature them into somebody that they can be, i.e., if Baker would have been a grown-up, we wouldn't have this problem in Cleveland.
Yeah.
But because every time he gets put in a corner, he reacts poorly, he's not a grown-up yet.
He makes red choices.
And now he has red consequences.
Yeah, because Deshaun's a really good
and he's going to be a backup somewhere because nobody wants him.
Because he's a hothead.
They're afraid of him planting some flag in the
Where did he go to school at?
He went to OU, by the way.
Eric.
Yes, he's a hothead. But he's been a hothead the whole time.
Right. They knew that going in.
Oh my gosh.
They knew what they were getting going in.
But they also assumed a certain amount of maturity and growing up,
which you would hope for,
that has it. He's 27 years old. He's playing like he's in college still. That's not how this works. In the same way, you can't be 65 years old in the local church, having been a member for 45 years of that, and act like you're still in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
You got to grow up.
Or even act like you're 20.
You got to grow up. You got to get involved. You got to do your part. You got to be a part of the process and be the grown-up and say, okay, I'm going to make grown-up choices here.
Right.
That if this isn't where I need to be, then let me find where I need to be. Mm-hmm. And if this is where God wants me to be, then I need to be all in there and utilize my gifts to the fullest, understanding that the call and the will of God is a dynamic sense, that what he called you to 30 years ago may not be what he's calling you to right now. Reading through Numbers and being reminded that those that were called into service of the tabernacle mm-hmm. were called to serve active duty 20 to 50. And after 50, they weren't released from duty. They were just put into advisory roles, so that they could advise and lead and manage those that were doing all of the active service.
Right.
Because they couldn't physically do it, but mentally they had a wisdom they needed. All those parts are required. All those parts are necessary.
To be effective.
To be effective. And the local church is no different. So I get into this free agency and it's just my mind is like, there's so many connecting points.
There can be, yeah.
Between free agency and the local church.
I mean, you're a preacher. You're designed to do that.
Well, I'm a strategist.
You have to apply real life scenarios to the church, or real life situations, which free agency is.
It is.
Again, you have options.
Right.
No one is contractually obligated to be here or anywhere else.
No.
That's where the free will comes in.
How fun could that be?
Oh,
if we what if we
that would not be fun at all. Especially if they don't want to be there.
We'll make a trade.
Imagine the
trade deadline's coming.
You take look at Seattle. Russ clearly didn't want to be there anymore the last 2 seasons.
Was that because the environment wasn't appropriate for him any longer, which is a coaching
or
and
just
GM problem?
That he got his feeling hurt.
Or he got his feelings hurt and couldn't get up and over that.
I say feeling because they only have one. It's either good or...
Right. There's actually 87 emotions that we deal with. Most Americans only know 3: happy, sad, angry.
That's me.
Yeah. We have to learn. Yeah. We've got to learn.
87.
Go read Atlas of the Heart. It's a recommended book. Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown.
Atlas of the Heart.
Yep. She groups them into 7 basic categories, and then there's nuances. But like empathy and compassion. There's shades between the two, but there are differences as well. But it's a good book.
It's $18.34 on Amazon. You can get it today.
It helps us better use the language we've been given to express how we feel. Because sometimes happy, sad, mad doesn't fully express what you're doing. And therefore, you can be misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
You can, look at that angry young man. Well, there may be more to that because he doesn't know how to best express in words.
And you see that so much in students today.
Yeah. You suffered, you suffered with some information that came in the last couple of days about a young man. And maybe if he had been allowed to express himself in a greater way, or been provided an option of how to express that, maybe the world around him could have understood him better. And in that, we could have salvaged an individual.
Right.
And I think it's very critical that we learn how to talk about these things. And I know for guys, it's the feels, and I don't want to be up in my feels.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the reality is we still have them. We just try to bury them
and don't get wrapped up in them. Here's the book. I think you can read that.
Yep.
Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown.
And I'm doing it on I do it on Audible.
That was awkward. Evan just sent me a picture of something.
I do it on Audible. And I'm going to tell you now, it's going to take more than one listen. There's a lot there.
It's cheaper as an audiobook.
It is. There's a lot there. You can get it on Kindle. It'd be cheaper on Kindle
$14 on Kindle.
I mean, it's worth one read, and I'm going to tell you, I'm almost done with it. And for me, it's going to be worth 2 reads because there's so much there that I think is incredibly important, especially in the positions you and I sit.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to tell the listening audience, I think if you're a parent, you need to understand these things and be able to recognize them and then help your child, adult or otherwise, learn to express themselves instead of just happy, sad, mad. And because there's so many more ways that have avenues out of that into healing and health. Mm-hmm. But if we don't know what you're feeling, how can we help you move through it?
Yeah. With 2 kids as teachers, that interact with all these emotions every day.
I recommend it to anybody. Seriously. Now, I'll tell you up front. She is a little salty at some points in her language.
It's not a Christian author.
Not a Christian author. I was
trying to say.
It doesn't make it a bad book.
Right.
She's funny at times. She doesn't use the worst end of the scale
most
of language.
Flowery language.
No, but she does throw in some things that in our day and age tend to be rather common. But at the same time, just letting you know, yes, I am recommending the book. I am telling you that if those things really bother you, then you don't need to read the book. But I think it's valuable enough, the information you get, to work through that.
I don't know if many people have worked around teenagers in a while.
I have 2. Well, I have one left in the house. The other one's now 20.
Or if you've ever substituted in a public high school,
it's every day.
There are certain words that they think belong in every sentence.
Yeah. And that might actually be an interesting topic for us one week, is the devaluation of the strength of a word.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we were growing up, I'll throw an example out. When we were growing up, the F word was like that, and GD were like the 2 things you never said
ever.
And now the F word is so commonly used that it's almost like we've devalued the heat. We've removed the heat out of the word by sheer volume of usage. So now we have to ask ourselves, is it really a vulgar word, or is it just an expression of an emotion they don't know how to express?
Read the book.
And she doesn't bring that up. That's just me thinking.
But that thinking is brought on by, 1, your experiences with today's student.
Yeah.
And 2, reading through this book about emotions and how
I think sometimes our students don't always know how to express themselves. And yes, I'm sure that it doesn't, for those that are the staunch Christians, that word has no usage in the English language ever.
I don't.
And I get that.
Yes, I personally don't use the word.
No, I don't either. But if you're going to
teetotaler,
but if you're going to say, freak in its stead,
we're going to talk about Christian cuss words.
Yeah,
we're talking about Christian cuss words. Gosh darn it, Aaron.
So I mean, at what point? I mean, are we really gonna are we gonna throw shade on that simply because we don't understand it? We haven't taken time to understand this. This generation is a broken, hurting generation that needs healing and love,
especially coming out of COVID.
And more often than not, we in the church sit here in our seat of judgment and look down upon them instead of loving them and understanding who they are.
Oh man, I didn't wear steel toes today. I left my boots at the house. Toe
stomper.
Toe stomper.
Sorry. I'll let it go.
You're not wrong though, but you're not wrong. Sometimes we emphasize things that aren't important.
Well, okay, let's bring it back to full circle.
Okay.
Tyreek Hill left. We don't know why.
We don't know every reason why.
We don't. So who has taken the time outside of maybe his agent to understand Tyreek Hill, to understand what he wants? Now, I'm not saying he should or shouldn't have left Kansas City to go to Miami. But what I'm saying is somebody understood what he felt he needed,
right,
and helped him achieve what he wanted. If we would take that much time to understand the other generations around us, how different a world we could have.
Did I tell you about the couple weeks ago? Whenever I don't know if we told the listening audience about the graphic that you shared with the different generations.
Yeah.
I tell you what, that was probably the most eye-opening experience
in youth discussion
those kids have ever had and ever seen, and it helped them to understand, why do my parents think like this? Why do my grandparents think like this?
Exactly.
Why do I think like this?
Because you've been shaped by the culture around you.
Yeah.
It's just, we've all been shaped by the culture around us.
And Tim was in there. Tim Gould. He's watching and listening.
Well, we walked through that and prayed through the generations last night at prayer meeting.
Okay, good.
We had that same infographic and passed out to everybody, and then we talked about it and then prayed through those generations, because every one of us have been shaped by the culture around us. Mm-hmm. Now, I know sometimes we blanket the whole generation. Not every Gen Xer is an angry individual.
Yeah, just you and me.
Just us. But all of us tend to be snarky, because that's I ain't wrong. Yeah, you just sip your coffee, Bubba. Just sip your coffee over there.
But it's because we have I have older siblings that are all boomers.
Well, I'll tell you.
No. Laura was 65, so I guess she's an Xer too.
Yeah.
So me, Kevin, and Laura, we're all Xers.
Well, she's a Zoomer.
She's a Zoomer,
because if she's 65, it's that blurred line.
She doesn't know where she's
If
at.
you have older parents, she's going to be raised more like a boomer, and she may have the thinking of that.
Laura, you absolutely talk a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you heard me say that. I say it, and you do talk a lot, like a lot.
Yeah. But
I guess I do too. We've been sitting here for 30 minutes now?
Yeah.
32 minutes we've been talking about.
The generational thing we have largely ignored in church life. And there is so much richness of information there, that we're not smart to disregard it. Mm-hmm. We have to take this into account. Now we have to balance that with loving our neighbor.
Right.
And realizing that it's one thing for me to be informed about who you are. Mm-hmm. But then I have to, now that I know you, now I have to walk through the Arise code of conduct that we've adopted or going to adopt, and realize, okay, now how do I walk through this code of conduct now that I know you? Because I may not like it, but at least I know it.
Right.
And I think that maybe stems from some of your conversation. The kids were, very enlightened about some things.
They were. I mean, sometimes just knowing the thought processes
yes.
help you to understand an individual. Yes. Why do they think the way they think? Well, why we'll go back to the early 1900s and our oldest generation.
Yeah, the traditionalists or elders, as
they want to save everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Why? Because they didn't have anything.
They had nothing. But at the same time, why are the boomers so abundant? Because the elders had nothing, they wanted to ensure their children had something better than they had. Well, then what happens? The boomers want to make sure their kids have something better than they had. And with the growth of the economy through the 80s, that just created all kinds of mess that we have today, good and bad. And so it's a crazy thing.
It is.
It's a crazy thing. But that's another reason why you have the youngest generation, that things tend to be throwaway. They're disposable. Right. And their grandparents just don't understand that.
I look at Ron Dalby.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen Ron Dalby's bucket of screws.
I have. I've sifted through that bucket before too.
I had to go through it the other day. He has this entire Kirkland's peanut butter or whatever jar. I don't know what it is. Peanuts, or I'll look at it and tell you exactly what it is. But it has every screw you could ever need for anything. I was missing a screw on the refrigerator in the youth building.
Go look in the bucket.
I got one of those.
And the fact that he knows he has one of those.
Right. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Freakish.
He's a man of much wisdom and gifting.
What's going on with Aaron's socks? So let me tell you about Aaron's socks.
When Aaron got here,
These weren't from that, but they're a part of that.
oh, okay. He said when he got here, you know how sometimes you'll do a pounding for the new pastor and you just fill the pantry. He'd been around a minute. He got groceries. And I know he's got groceries because I had to unload a freezer for him that was still full of groceries. It weighed 742 pounds. I broke my back. But our children's minister at the time, and she was also on the search committee that found him, said, you know what? What if we just, what if it was called sock it to you?
And he was sock it to you.
Sock it to you. Instead of pounding, let's just sock it to him. And so each family was encouraged to bring him a pair of socks that represented their family.
Represented their family and their interests.
So that he could look at this pair of socks and realize, hey, the Warrens gave me these socks and they really like music because they gave me this.
So I from that, I got guitars and music notes, Oregon and A&M, and I got space socks, and I got just some regular heavy duty warmth socks.
Yes, I know who you got those from. I know who you got those from. They're work socks.
Yeah.
They're boot socks.
Yeah, that's right.
Alan F. If you don't know Alan
I love
F,
them too, man.
if you
I
don't know
love
Alan
them.
F. Alan F. is a cowboy. I mean, he's got cattle on top of cattle. And he's the one that brought you those
Yeah.
works. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Gosh, what a great
So that's
guy.
what's up with my socks.
And
I got Mickey socks on
He
today.
just likes funky socks.
What can I say?
Yeah. I like short socks. They all have to be Adidas, and I buy them at Sam's because they're the
I
best.
wear a lot of those too.
I like the ones that they have the squeezy middle because I have
Yes.
really bad plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, it helps.
Like-
It helps that a lot.
Like the worst possible. I have to buy new shoes quite often, and I have multiple pairs of the same shoe because when you find a shoe that fits your foot the way these do,
Yes,
it's hard to
you
get
buy
off
14
those.
pair of those.
Only-
So, hey, as
only
we've
3.
stated before, if you have something you'd like to hear Dads with Coffee's take on, throw it in the chat or message one of us, and we'll be happy to bring that up and have our own flavor of interpretation and understanding of what that is. This Dads with Coffee. Somebody asked us the other day, what do y'all do with Dads with?
What is that?
What is that?
I think Tim.
Well, I wasn't going to call him out, but I wasn't
Tim
going to call
emailed.
him
He's
out.
like, "Hey, man,
What is
what
this?
is this?
I'm like,
We don't know.
it's so y'all just sit and talk around. Yep,
Yeah.
pretty much.
We sit talk for half
And now
an hour.
he's with us every week.
every week. You won't miss us now.
That's right.
You won't miss us. Sorry, Tim. I didn't know you.
Yeah, I'm going to call him out, but you go right ahead there, Bubba.
I will.
You-
I love Tim. He's a great dude. Tim's going to be the speaker for D Now this.
Awesome,
year, and,
awesome. Look forward to that.
So
Looking
he,
forward to that.
we met last night and talked over some things. So
Good,
yeah,
good.
it's gonna be good times.
It
Big
will
fun.
be. Will be good times. Good times. All right, you guys. We're going to head out of here.
Yep, my kid's blowing my phone out.
That's right. You guys have a great day. If you don't have a church to go to, join us online or in person on Sunday. We'd love to have you.